Hello. Happy Friday, beautiful people. And we are a bit fashionably late. Hunter had some issues, but it's all good. I'm here with Hunter Hammonds. I'm Tommy Gioco, and this is Release Notes. The first day, actually, where Release Notes YouTube is live and kicking. What's up, Hunter?
What's going on, man? Did you like the chaos that we brought to the music today?
Hunter was DJing, and then I disagreed with his mix, so I switched it up, and then he disagreed with my mix. The truth is, we had a much better intro prepared for the countdown, but Hunter was late, so it didn't get going. Hunter was not late. I was late, just to be clear. But we appreciate you being with us. How you feeling, man?
I'm feeling good, dude. Today's exciting. I mean, look, we got a lot to talk about. Okay, we're not going to talk about where I am or where my fancy bookshelves are. Okay, I just turned my virtual background off today, but we got a lot to dive into. ChatGPT hit us with O3, O4. We got 4.1, whatever the hell that is. Come on. Um, Tommy, both you and I dove deep into O3 this week. So we got a lot to talk about there. Maybe OpenAI is buying Windsurf for $3 billion, which
Just
is
a
a
few
whole
pennies.
just a few
Yeah.
pennies. We got the new OpenAI coding tool in the terminal, which definitely want to dive into that. We
Mm-hmm.
got some weird stuff to talk about with Grok. We're gonna talk about Canva code, Figma. We got Figma's bullshit code
Figma's
experience.
Figma might be getting into code,
It
maybe.
is something. We have a topic here. Listen, lovable is loveless? Question mark. What is that about? I don't know. So we're gonna talk about it. And then of course we got the boy Will King coming on. We got Pietro Schirano coming on. We got some cool shout outs. We're trying to get you all some free swag from Perplexity. There's a lot to cover today. And I just spent 45 minutes on the phone with our boy Brett from Design Joy. Him and I are cooking up something special.
Uh-oh.
Maybe, maybe not.
Uh-oh.
I'm not going to talk about it, but
You
I'm going to
talk
tease you.
about it.
I'm like a cliffhanger. No, no, no. I'm talking about it, but not talking about it.
Okay. I appreciate
Let's
it.
dive in.
I
Let's dive
like it,
in.
man. Where to start, though? Because there's a lot. And there's a lot. And the very first thing I just want to say before we even get into these topics is I'm feeling, I yearn to churn, Hunter. I yearn to churn. And what I'm noticing is this 2025 era of constant updates and the things we're seeing right now. Um, I am not loyal to any of your products. I'm not. I'm not. I'm sorry. The minute someone comes out with the shiny little object, I pack up my luggage. I've got like 5 suitcases. I put it all inside. I stay up till 3 a.m. I'm migrating like a lemming with my handles. I'm taking all my suitcases over to ChatGPT. I'm removing Claude from the bottom bar of my iPhone. I migrated my whole workspace over. That's a pain in the ass. That sucks to do. It made me realize I need to have a better way to do that because I'm probably going to migrate away from ChatGPT eventually, but not now. Not right now. It's a good bud. I was like, you know what? You ever played Civilization, the game?
Dude, I'm a civilization addict.
One more turn, right?
Yeah.
One
One
more
more turn.
turn. That's me. I
Yeah.
get in bed. I'm like, it's been a productive day. Hunter didn't text me, so I don't have to deal with him. And I'm
Yep.
like, let me just ask a question. I'm like, oh, that was insightful. Well, maybe clarify. And like digs in, and it's like, here's a whole plan. I'm like, well, let's just one more turn. Like, what does that thread look like? And we keep going, and all of a sudden it's 3 a.m. and my wife's like, hey, you should probably go to sleep.
You need to go to bed.
Yeah.
Dude, you're gonna have a hard time churning soon because here's what's really interesting about all this. With OpenAI adding memory across the stack, right?
Yep.
How are you gonna leave? Like they're gonna know everything about you. They're gonna know more about you than Claude
Yep.
does. They're going to personalize it. They're going to give you more things you can do with that memory in that context. I see a world to where somebody's going to come out. They're going to say like, "Hey, here's how I can help you extract your digital like AI brain
Hmm.
from X provider and upload it to the other one." Like that's where we're headed. Um,
And
we
someone
got
may
we.
have just launched a product that does exactly that.
Oh shit! Did I
It's a
lead the
small,
witness?
it's a small little obscure thing, and this is where we're at. Something that important and dope can get launched and absolutely lost in the mess of announcements and other innovations that are just kicking up on a Tuesday, and it's crazy. And so what's really cool to me, and we'll look at this, in a second when my browser lets me click on it. Arc kind of messing up these days, man.
Dude, Arc is shitting the bed.
It
I
really,
think they're pulling an Apple to where they're like, hey, we got our new product out, so we're gonna
yes.
like totally wreck the old one to make you switch. That's what's happening.
Yeah, this is actually. Oh, here we go. Okay, so I got. Have you looked at this yet?
Dude,
Vercel's
yeah.
State of AI Developer Survey. So they launched this a couple days ago. I like these surveys. Hey, I might run one called UX Tools that's coming out at the end of the month, which has some pretty interesting insights around the AI as well. But this is the developer survey they just launched. It's a snapshot of quarter 1 this year, and it looks like this is the second edition because they do have a snapshot of quarter 4, which you can play with. I'm not gonna go through everything, but I did find it interesting because there was a moment, and this is the bubble I'm in. I thought Claude was the clear winner for developers. I thought that was the direction a lot of folks were going, at least since 3.5, and then 3.7 started to get mixed signals. According to them, 87% are using OpenAI. This is like a sample size of, I think, 3,000 folks. But the other thing is I've got developer friends who 2 weeks ago were saying, hey, dude, like, you need to try Gemini. Like, and these are like developer friends who are like chief of staff, like staff engineers. And they're like, no, actually, you need to try Gemini. I'm curious what you think. I don't really see, like, it's interesting to see OpenAI top of the charts here for coding.
Dude, I tried Gemini 2.5. The thing is like what makes Gemini great is that it's really smart and it has that million token context window.
Right.
But the issue is that the more context you feed it, the dumber it gets, right? And then we've
Mm,
got our boys OpenAI coming out with O3 this week, which is now on top of the SWE-bench charts,
yeah.
69%, right? I think that the one thing that I've noticed with 2.5 and some of the other models is that they're really bad with tool calls, right? They're really smart models, but
Hmm.
they're really resistant to tool calling and cursor or windsurf, which makes them kind of unusable. I would say that with both Claude and now OpenAI focusing on terminal, it seems that they're trying to push us away from the IDEs and into just like, hey, just drop it in terminal and like we're all gonna have Devon, basically. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
intrigued.
I'm also very interested to see. I mean, OpenAI is taking some crazy swings if you were to listen to the grapevine in the last, I think, 10 days. And we'll talk about some of those swings, but I do want to call out, just because, like I said, this stuff is getting lost and I haven't tested this yet. Now, we said we were going to talk about MCPs this week, but as it happens, we just constantly get derailed by new updates every single week. And so all you and I have been messing with is O3, I think. And I'm curious to see how you've been using it. I'm going to show you. But this super memory MCP, I think, has the right idea. Curious if anyone's
Mm.
used this yet. It looks like he just announced it 2 days ago. So we'll have
I
to
mean,
check this out, see what it's like. Grok gets some memories. We'll call that out. Grok is just like, I feel like the cool stuff happens, and then Grok's like, us too.
yeah,
Kind of like I'm waiting for Grok to do something where it's like they did a thing that led the way for the others, but they're just kind of like the little crustaceans on the whale, just kind of following it around.
dude.
Crustaceans?
I'm
What are
excited.
those things called?
Barnacles? No, I don't know. I'm
Barnacles.
excited to dive straight into O3. Like,
Okay, well
I
then
want to see how
let's
you've
get
been
into
using
it.
it.
Let's
Show
get
me.
into this. And before we go into our use cases, what's interesting, and so Dan Shipper, who is going to be joining us not today, we do have him coming on in the next couple of weeks. I was reading the way he's been using O3.
Hmm.
And I just kind of getting inspiration. And to be totally honest, I agree with the folks who are saying there's so many models to choose from. Like, which one do I choose? So with the memory of ChatGPT, I was like, hey, listen, like you're familiar with what I'm asking you. Like, you get it.
Yep.
What model should I be using for the types of tasks I frequent with you? And it's like, I got you. Rule of thumb. Do this for the types of things we talk about. Best model is this. And listen, some of you guys might know these models off the, off the top of your head. I've been referring to this and it's been quite helpful.
A little cheat sheet. I like it.
Little cheat sheet, nothing
Yeah.
crazy. Um, but this, man, I can't get past the UI of ChatGPT right now. I
What
mean,
do you
I
mean?
can.
It's great.
No, it's not. It's not
It
good.
is great. It's
It's not
great.
that good. No,
It's
it's not.
great.
I disagree.
Are you using the Mac app?
No,
Yeah, see,
the
that's where you
browser.
fucked up. Nah,
Really?
dude.
The
Yeah,
Mac app
use the
is the
Mac
way.
app. The Mac app's great. Yeah, I really, really enjoy it. Um, can I just tell you a story? Because you're gonna give me something that's like business related.
I am. Well, yes, I
Yep.
am. Yep.
Okay. All right. Can I share with you a crazy use case though?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to share this crazy use case, and then we'll talk about your business use case. All right. Here's why I want to share this,
Okay.
because this is practical, right? Check this shit out. Okay. I was like, you know what? Why would I do all this obscure research? Let me ask O3 with deep research. Um, hey, I'm planning a 10-day overlanding trip across Colorado and Wyoming, but I need three things. I need really good dispersed camping. So I want to be alone. I want to be in solitude. So I need really good dispersed camping. I need to make sure that my routes and my camping spots are right next to great fly fishing spots.
Mm,
And I need to make sure that all the trails fit my Raptor, right? Um, it did the most obscure research that I've ever seen. Like some of these sites, and you look at these references, I never would have found these. It's like, hey, take this trail. Here's the details on it. Here's when it opens. Here's the camping options. Latin Lounge in here. Nearby fishing, right? Gave me a lot of options. And then what I said is, okay, let's keep exploring this. Let me just keep playing. For this trip, here's exactly what kind of vehicle I have. Here's like the bed rack I've been looking into, maybe like a swinging hitch from Rig, like whatever. It asked me a few questions. Who am I traveling with? Whatever. And so I gave it, and it's like, hey, here's the recommended setup based on everything that you shared for your truck. Okay. So I,
hmm
I kept going with this, and I said, okay, for all this, put it into a table. Let me scroll down here. I said, put it into a table of everything you recommend with costs, right? Give me the must-have costs and the nice-to-have costs, right?
hmm
So kind of the total. And then I'm like, okay, hey, wait, we got to talk payload, all right? So based on this payload, I need to upgrade my rear springs in my truck, right? And it's like, yeah, you do. Here's what you got. And I said, okay, hold on. This is the model truck I have, whatever. Tell me what I need. Here it is. I have a 2024 37-inch tires, whatever. And it's like, okay, based on this analysis, here are the springs that you should get. Here's what they're going to do, whatever. And it's like, you should get progressive springs. I'm like, I don't know what the hell progressive springs are. So I asked it, tell me what that means. How does that work? Like, what's the breakdown? Dude, I just crushed weeks worth of research
Yeah.
in the span of like 15 minutes. And I'm like going into Onyx off road and I'm like plugging in these trails and like looking at this stuff. It is the best way to plan a crazy trip like this. And now I just want to build a wrapper. I just want to build an O3 deep research wrapper that's like for some niche ass thing like fly fishing and overlanding or something. That would be amazing, right?
Yeah.
Like
Why don't you just
the
build a custom
ways that
GPT with it?
that's what I'm saying. I want to build a
Yeah.
wrapper. I
Yeah.
want to build like a cool, like, bookmark your trip. Like, dude, it's so cool, man. Like, I
I'm
love
not
it.
even scratching the surface yet. And so, Dan was talking about, and he said he fed O3 all of his
Meeting
granola
notes.
transcripts.
Yeah.
Guys,
Yeah.
granola is so positioned, I think, to do some really interesting stuff. I'm trying to
Yeah.
reach out to him, have him come on. Um, I'm curious what they're going to do because they really have such a great little position there that I think they could do some cool stuff with. I wanted to do that. How could I communicate better? You know damn well I'm so wordy. How can I fix that? And I just want
Yeah.
like a month long ChatGPT coach to be like, "Hey, stop talking.
Yeah.
You said what you need to say."
Here's what I'm gonna do for you. I'm gonna start saving all your voice notes and I'm gonna
Yes.
upload them to ChatGPT. I'm
Yes.
gonna be like, I need you to critique Tommy.
Yeah.
And then hey, look, based on what ChatGPT told me last week, I'm gonna figure out how to be more clear and less ambiguous. All right. We're gonna do it. Hold on real quick. I want to spend some time on chat real quick. saw someone release the Devon prompts on Reddit to recreate for yourself. Not sure if real. This one's from Ethan Driscoll. I did see these prompts. The
Yeah.
prompts might be real, but all of these things miss all of the training context
Can
and
you
tool
explain this?
calling.
I don't know much about this.
Yeah, so there's been some stuff going on around Reddit and some other sources
Okay.
that essentially is like, hey, I found the prompt that Cursor is using for Claude 3.7. So this is the prompt that they're giving Claude to kind of the system level prompt before the user starts sending their prompts. So Claude's saying, okay, this is the prompt I'm getting at the system level. And then the user is prompting me, like, go build this thing. I have to follow this prompt, right? And that's good and well. But what those miss is that every time Cursor or Windsurf, for example, or Devon in this case, is using the API to make tool calls, there are tool call specific instructions that they've got programmed into the API. So
Mm.
these prompts might be real, but they're missing a lot of the magic that we're just sadly not going to get access to.
Right, because
So
it's behind the line, the curtain, the wall. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, it's definitely obfuscated. We get another one here from Christopher. Is it D'Souza or just Souza? Wasn't Devon a scam? No, it's not. It's actually quite good. But they had some. I'd say they had a bumpy start to launch, but it's getting really really good.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty solid.
I
Um,
I saw you. Oh, what do we got here? Traveling with a Raptor. Do
do
you
you keep
keep
your
your
fuel
fuel refinery?
refinery in the back? Listen. I got a 36-gallon tank, and I get 13 miles a gallon. Thank you very much. Okay. I can circumnavigate the globe on one tank. Which is funny. I just got rid of my Model S Plaid this week. Um, and they're like, I was turning it in. They're like, oh, what new vehicle are you getting? And I was like, dude, I was like, I have other vehicles. Like, I haven't driven this thing in a year. I hate this thing. Just take it. And he's like, oh, well, do you want to drive a Cybertruck?
Oh
I
no.
was like, sure,
Okay.
sure. So I drove it
Yeah.
around the block. It is wild how many people stare at you and when you're driving that thing.
It's
Like
it's got a taste to it, huh?
it's more intense than like driving a Ferrari, in terms of like the amount of people that are
Do you
looking.
suddenly feel like level orange? You know, you're like on alert.
Yeah, it was really weird. It's also tiny inside. It's like really small. Anyways, but that's my
So
Cybertruck story.
didn't leave the lot with the Cybertruck. Safe to say. Yeah.
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay.
No, no.
Not gonna let
I
any peeling metal slash someone's tires.
no.
Um, I saw a post you made, and I wanted to ask you about this.
That I made?
You made a post, and
Uh-oh.
then it kind of nothing came of it, and I was like, hmm. You were proposing. I don't think you were committing. I think you made a proposal of like, well, I think I'm gonna make do the CEO experiment with O3.
Ooh.
And if I recall correctly, I want to say 2 years ago, there was a guy who kind of came out. And he's like, I'm gonna let it do this, and it bought like a plant website, and it like made $5, and then it just derailed into this awful thing. But he had like 48 hours where people were like, "This is crazy," and then
Yeah.
it just like wasn't there.
Yep.
I
You're
want
talking
to
about
hear.
this
I want to
post.
hear. Yeah, yeah. Here we go.
Yeah, so I said I have a crazy idea. I want to make AI the CEO of a $100,000 a month business.
Yeah.
Full control of the goal to 2x, record, live stream everything, thoughts. And I was really disappointed by the replies, to be honest with you. Like Brian O'Connor here said, a buddy did this last year, but on LinkedIn, called it whatever. I said he gave control of an existing business to $100,000 a month to AI. I don't think people understood what I was saying, which
They
I
thought you were
do
gonna do
think,
like the little junior cute little like, I'm gonna give it
yeah,
$10 and buy a domain
yeah,
and see what it
no.
does. And you're like, no, I'm
No,
gonna
I
give
meant,
this thing some fucking superpower.
yeah, I meant like, no. I'm going to take an existing business that makes $100,000 a month and I'm going to legit make AI the CEO, right? Um, and I clarified what I was saying is like, look, it's not like a stock trading portfolio, right? AI is not going to be able to automatically make decisions all day and take action.
Right.
The best it can do is be a strategist, but
Mhm.
I would listen to what it says, right? Um, I'm going to do it, I think. I think I'm going to do it. And I'll be transparent with you. I'm talking about Landed, one of our businesses,
Hmm.
and it's a great business. The retention is through the roof. It's profitable, but it bores me. And I realize that I'm at this weird junction in my career, and I'm curious how you feel about this, Tommy, to where like I want to keep playing the game. In fact, I want to make a lot more money. I got shit I got to do, but that business just bores the shit out of me. I
Yeah.
don't feel any draw to working on it. And so I was like, you know what? How I could make it more exciting is if I turned it into a
An
giant content
experiment.
experiment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think well, listen, man, because you're Scrooge over there and sitting on your gold coins in the back and the pores, I'm gonna play a game, and I'm over here like, no, I'm actually using AI to build a business and I'm gonna die if this fucks me over. So
Hey, dude.
I like the experiment. And
So so
what I think we should do is just like genuinely share, like I'm curious how you're doing it, and I'm like, this is what I'm doing, and that's what I'll share today after Pietro, who's joining us shortly. I'll share kind of what I'm doing around that, because the unlock that I have had in the last 10, 14 days, like I've made real financial decisions in 10 days because of
yeah.
O3 or because of
Oh yeah.
ChatGPT.
I want to hear
Uh,
these. I want to
yeah,
know the real world repercussions.
yeah.
But I want to answer real quick. Did you have specific industries in mind for the AI CEO experiment, or pretty open to ideas still? Again, an actual existing company, I would give it control of, not like far-fetched, like maybe I'll have it start a business and try and get to $100,000 a month. But I'm talking about literally giving it control of a business that already makes $100,000 a month,
Hmm.
which is, I think, uncharted territory. So I'm kind of excited to explore that.
Well, and I'm just realizing it's so different when you actually have material resources to give control, even if you have control over it, or a real business experiment. Like, you can, like, the ideas are great, but sometimes, like, if you're bootstrapping, some of these ideas just require a much different level of scrappiness, which I'm learning here. The minute you start
Mm.
injecting cash into the actual equation when working with AI, like, it's fucking good, man.
It's good, but it's very agreeable.
Yes, I have had to tell it. And so I've built, I'll show you guys here soon, but I have built Tommy's Laws. And then I have built, so I've got a little custom thing. And then I have built essentially I've got a whole thing that, like, I've never been good with the revenue side. And I told you this, that I always identified, maybe some of the people listening can relate. I'm a creator, I'm a builder. I like to be in the production side. All of my co-founders in the past have been the finance people, the money people. They tell me what, if I'm spending too much or if it's good, and I don't worry about it. And I just say, I'm not good at the money side. I just let other people do it. I am unsubscribing from that identity last week forward. I'm done with that. That is no longer who I am. That is no longer something I believe. And O3 has painted a very clear picture for me on how to make decisions, how to think about margin, how to make. I mean, I went out and did a number of things. So it's I'm excited to talk about it. But before we do, we got our boy Pietro Schirano joining us, man. And we've had him before. He's been building. Oh, he's been building. But today we're going to talk a little bit about his experience with O3, some MCPs. Pietro, what's up, buddy?
Hello, everyone. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah,
I got
yeah.
you. I got you.
Awesome. Yeah, it's good to see you. You know, it's funny. I was noticing we basically met exactly a month ago. Like exactly a month ago today, first time we spoke.
Yeah.
Yeah, how are you guys?
I'm
Good
good. I
man.
don't have anything to
What have you
celebrate
done
that
in
with.
that month? You know?
Yeah, so much has happened. I feel like with AI and this stuff, like things move so fast now. It's like, yeah.
I love
Are
it. I love
you?
it.
When I had reached out to you, I was like, hey, we're going to be talking about some MCPs because it's a big thing. I'm recognizing it's a power I'm missing out on. I do want to ask you, what is like your daily AI driver stack right now? Like, what are you using every day?
Yeah, so for me, Cloud Code is like my favorite coding agent. Of course, I'm a little biased because I worked with
Yeah.
Anthropic. I just found Cloud Code to be better than Cursor and all these other applications, just because like it's just built in a way to really understand your context better. It's more expensive, of course. Like it runs more tools, and it's like it has a little more step. But for what I've seen, even compared to, I don't know, using some more like flagship model, they're, like the new O3 or like Gemini Pro, I still prefer the results from Cloud Code. So that's sort of like my daily driver. And then for just general application, it's funny because it's like I was a very sort of like general on application. I used to use cloud app for everything, right? And now I'm doing these weird things where like I build my own chat app for what I need. Like I tell you an example, like, so guys, I'm a founder, and being a founder, even if you have a lot of friends, it's like a pretty lonely experience, right? Because you have this idea, and I built this own chat app that I can show you. It's like I put all the essays for Sam Altman, so that it's like it's basically a founder support chat. And every time I need like something, I have an advice, or I need like, I'm want to take these metrics. What do you think? It just tells me what to do, but it sounds like Sam Altman, which is interesting. So I kind of like started to build my own flows. I think like that's like the power, like once you know how to use this thing. And then I just use like, the cloud app with a lot of MCP, like search and file systems, and the sequential thinking one, that is the one that I built, that it's like really popular. Apparently, the engineer at client, they DM me and they were like, the sequential thinking is the most downloaded MCP on client, which is another sort of like coding agent that you can run into your code. But yeah, so it's kind of like it's all dynamic for now. Yeah.
It's interesting to me to hear that you're so into Claude Code, which sounds like very developer-y, but like just for chat, for the audience real quick, like your background as a designer, right?
Yes.
So you're a designer that has, I guess we'll put you into like the elevated design engineer status or something. But taking your design background, I think if you're a designer and you're jumping into Cursor, for example, and you're chatting with Cursor a lot, you're getting to kind of see those changes happen side by side, review previews, things like that. With Claude Code, it's a little bit more in the weeds, right? How have you found that kind of jump from the Cursor to the Claude Code being a lot more technical?
Totally. Well, like Cursor is definitely like a better experience. Like you can do things like act to file, to name a file. In Cloud Code, you kind of have to copy the path, right? And like, the Cloud Code has some sort of like confirmation aspect. Like, if it makes a big change, it shows like, hey, this is the change I'm going to make. And of course, you can say like, oh, just be on auto mode, and it does that too, which is what I do most of the time, and then I have to fix the bugs. But like Cursor is definitely a better experience to me. But what I realized is like in terms of like, and this is truly, I'm not trying to promote Anthropic or anything like that. It's just like in terms of like one-to-one sort of like results, just Cloud Code gets me to a point that Cursor doesn't get me. And sometimes the Cursor might fail, the tool call might fail, also because like as Cursor grows, it has to support all those models, right? And of course, I'm sure in the back they probably build their own framework to support this like multimodal, support Gemini, support Cloud or whatever. But when you build stuff like that, at some point it's going to crash somewhere, right? Because you're not directly speaking in the way that the model prefer to be spoken to. And with Cloud Code is that you're basically working with the API structure, and API structure built for Anthropic by Anthropic. It's like it's almost like the communication. It's like just better. And so I at the end I just like about the result. But of course like anything in your idea is going to be a better experience. I'm surprised, as somebody that's inside Anthropic, like I'm surprised it wasn't launched as a IDA sort of like plugin basically, but it kind of makes sense.
Well, and what's interesting to me, someone made a comment that I read the other day, which was saying, you have the wrappers, the windsurf, the cursors, and they're almost incentivized to try and prevent what was the operations here? Like one side of it's like, we want to prevent the number of tokens being expended. The other side's like, no, we want the expenditure to be higher because it's how we make money. And that conflict, is that part of why you think there's probably a number of reasons, but is that one of the reasons why it makes more sense for Claude to have its own coding ecosystem, for OpenAI to potentially buy Windsurf?
Yeah, so you actually hit the nail in the head there. Like, with all those agents, they have a fixed price. Like I know they have like upsells, like Cursor has upsells now. You can say like, oh, instead of paying $20 a month, I'm going to add another $50 credits, whatever. So their goal is to keep the context low. But with Cloud Code, you just get all the context you want. But from Anthropic's perspective, I don't think it was done with the goal of making more money. It's just like, hey, look, this is how the model works better this way, right? Like it's funny, when I did Cloud Engineer, one of the complaints was that a lot of people couldn't use it because they were rate limited by Anthropic. This is like the early day of 3.5 Sonnet. But the reason why a lot of people thought Cloud Engineer was magical is because we were getting this amazing result, because I was just throwing everything. Like you were getting the context every time, you would get the file content every time, and like all this stuff, right? And actually, an interesting point about this, another video I want to work on, it's like, here's how to make a $3 billion coding agent. Because what's blowing my mind about this stuff, it's like coding agents are so easy to do, right? Because like 90% of the stuff that's taken care of by the model. But the hard part is the engineering, like what context you give it, how does it process the information, and all this kind of stuff. But fundamentally, it's not hard to build a coding agent, right?
Yeah, it's totally easy. Yeah, I built like a couple this weekend, and it was no sweat.
Dude, just go to VS Code, hit fork, open up Cursor, say build yourself in this fork of VS Code. Let's rock.
But I want to follow up with that question just with one more, because I dropped out of community college, so I'm an idiot, and I want to know what is mechanically the issue between those two conflicts. Like mechanically, what's happening when the incentive is kind of a conflict there between the token?
Well, I guess it's like less about conflict and more about like, like, for example, let's say you're working on Cloud Code and you're asking for the project, right? You actually go scan to the entire project, right? Like it reads all the files, it understands all the file, etc. There's certain things like either, for instance, and I suppose also to an extent Cursor, where actually instead of looking at the entire file, they look at the class. Like the model still has a good understanding of what that file is, but it doesn't read every single line. It just understands sort of like the function class and the grouping, right? So you're getting less context. The model still has a good understanding, but it's actually not like a full understanding of what's in the file, right? And of course, like if you send all the files, it's going to cost you more money. If you send less token, it's going to cost you less, but at the cost of like maybe a little less understanding from the model. And I think like that's why all this like big context window model like the 4.1 and Gemini, they're exciting because like you can send a lot of context, right? And there's also a limitation in terms of like what it's the actual context limit of those models. For example, for Anthropic, it's still like 200,000 token. I think if you're an enterprise, there's like a larger amount there, but those are like it's just a different contract. And so like there's also limitation around like what the model can actually ingest at one time. And I think like a lot of what Cursor did really good in the early days, they actually engineered a really nice way to simplify and synthesize what was important from the code base, so you didn't overwhelm the context window, basically.
So when it comes to, and you have one of the top downloaded MCPs, is that, what was it called again?
The sequential thinking. So I did like when we launched MCP, I launched 3. One was the sequential thinking, Brave Search, which basically added search into cloud before we actually launched the web search functionality. And the other one was the file system, which was a sort of like a sole successor to Cloud Engineer, because you get to like modify your file. It's basically Cursor, right? The file system, if you use the file system MCP, you basically have a coding agent, right? Because you can look into your file, you can edit them, you can read them. And so, but the sequential thinking one is a really cool story, because this is what happened. This was like, we at the time we didn't announce the thinking model yet, like the cloud thinking. But there was all this conversation about thinking model, because you get like, there was like O1 was already out, and there was like, R1 from DeepSeek. And I was like, what? I wonder if I can make it a tool that let cloud thinking sequentially, like we human do, right? Let's say it's like, and if you actually look at the code of the code, it not only can think step by step, but it can also take branches, right? Like you and I, for instance, we're having a conversation, we have an idea, but we don't go in one direction, or maybe then we come back and say, actually, no, you know what? It's better go to the other direction, right? And so the model actually does that. It thinks sequentially, but also is able to say, actually, you know what? Let me branch this far, like you would do. And you get this, and at the time I was like, I remember, I was in the Anthropic Slack channel, and I was like, hey, like, I'm getting some crazy performance boosts of this model. Like, what's going on here? Like, it seems like it's getting like question that the regular model can answer. And then we publish a research where thinking tool actually did increase the output of the model, almost like it would like a real person would do, right? So I think that there's a lot of magic that you can, when you try this stuff out, and then actually end up improving, the science of it, which I think was like really cool.
I'm really trying to, because I need the ability to just have AI see across modalities,
Yes.
right? And apps and contexts and everything. And it's such a challenge. I wish Claude or Granola would just attach to my brain and then just intake everything, right?
Yes.
Well, until we have that. I'm asking O3 right now, what's the 80/20 version of the MCP I could set up today that would make the most impact for me? Well, it has context. But without context, I want to know from you, like, what do you think for someone who's like, okay, time to up level my window here? What is like the 80/20 thing someone can do to just start getting a benefit from an MCP?
Well, for example, one of the one I use a lot is like the crawling, like crawl a link, like information, right?
Right.
Like, how many times like you pass in a content, like an API documentation, something that you want the model to learn, or an article, right? Now in my cloud app, I just say like, oh, go to blah blah blah.com, scrape it, and like how you do the API this way, like what's the documentation for this particular thing we're trying to solve. And so that's really 10x my experience, because I don't have to like look up at the file and copy paste it. So that's one I would really like suggest to have, like a crawling or fetching of a link. And then of course like the file system one, because like I threw like Apple Notes into it, right? Like there's like an MCP that can actually communicate to your Apple Notes, to your WhatsApp messengers, and so anything that it's like, I only use Apple Notes. I'm not a Notion fan. I'm just like
Notion. Let's go.
Like the simplest, the better, right? And so like I have all those notes and stuff that I write down for my company, ideas that I have, and so it's like it's so nice to have this like second brain, right? Because I feel like all the thing that people used to talk on Notion was like, oh, Notion is your second brain. This is the second brain, like somebody that actually has a brain and can talk to your notes. There's also an amazing plugin for MCP for what's the other famous notes app? It has like a gem as a logo.
Obsidian,
yes.
Oh, yeah.
There's also an amazing MCP for that, so you can connect to it. And then I use the linear one a lot. So for instance, I have all those issues, my apps. If I want to communicate with my engineers, I have to go on linear, log in, put all the issues. Now I go in the cloud app or Cursor and I say like, hey, this is the issue that I have. It just makes the issue linear. So that's like life-changing basically for me.
Pietro, I want to ask you, man. So talking all things MCP, I think it's cool for us to like sit and talk about different MCPs and list them off. But like, I'd imagine a lot of the listeners are wondering the same thing I am, which is like, if we had to bucket you into like, I don't know, 2 or 3 categories. So let's say there's like, I'm building a product category. There is, I'm thinking about strategy category. And maybe there's just like, I'm doing stuff in my personal life category. How are you using MCPs in each of those categories? How are you chaining them together? Like, and honestly, man, like, what do you think the end boost to productivity or kind of context is for you?
Totally. I mean, that's a great question. I think like to kind of take a step back, right? I feel like the reason why MCP is so interesting is that it basically turns cloud or any other support LLM into an operating system, right?
Yep.
You have to think about MCP. I think the best analogy I give to people, it's like a USB pen, right? So like if cloud is an app or whatever, Cursor is an MCP client, instead of having to go and build this stuff yourself, you just bring your USB pen with your data, whatever the data is, and then you plug it in, and now magically they understand each other's language because the framework is built in a way so that the input and the output understand each other's, right? And so when you think about like building AI apps, to me, there's like 3 main building blocks. There is the model that you're using, right? There is the context that you give into this model. So like, what is the information the models know in terms of prompting, in terms of data to achieve something? And then there is sort of like, what is the output that this model is taking? Is it code? Is it text? Is it markdown? Is it a beautiful map, right? Because you can also go into like rich formats, right? And so I think like, to me, what MCP is solving right now, it is solving sort of like the personal bucket because you can put like your information, like your notes, as we were saying before, like your data. MCP basically what it does really well is solves the data issue, which is the huge issue in AI, right? And so you can think about if you solve the data issue, then what does solving the data issue means? Well, it means like I can talk to my notes. It means like I can talk to my code base, or it means like I can talk to my mixed panel data that it's so hard to understand, but now outside that I can understand it, right? So it's like it's sort of like tough to find those buckets. It's more about like, okay, what is data solving for me? And then so you kind of have to ask yourself. Yeah.
Did you, Tommy and I were talking about this earlier, but I think you're the perfect man to run this question across.
Okay.
So we were talking about my experiment that I might do, where
Mhm.
I'm gonna let like O3, for example,
Yeah.
be the CEO of one of my businesses that
Love
does like $100,000 a month, right? I'm like, this would be interesting to
it.
just
Mhm.
whatever. The trick would be, I have to give it all the context. It has to know everything, right? And so I'd have to go nuts with MCPs. I'd have to give it analytics and HubSpot and Stripe, just like connect it to everything. What do you think if you were me, or you were just like an instigator in my desire to potentially do this or not?
Yeah.
How would you approach it? What would you look at in terms of like an MCP stack?
Totally. Well, for once, he needs Slack access, right?
Ooh,
So he
That's
knows
good.
all the information.
That's
So,
good.
so this is the thing, right? You want it to act like the founder, the CEO, the director of the company. He needs to know what's going on in the company.
yeah,
And actually, Slack is an amazing one. It's an amazing. It's like it takes all the context, the messages, the information. So kind of give an understanding of like, first of all, what does the company work on, right?
yeah,
And then if you have like external documentation, like Google Drive, that's a great one to give it to. There's also NCP for Google Drive. So basically, what would do if you were doing this as a let's say there's like different stage of prototyping this, right? You could do this starting very simple, where it's like, okay, I'm just going to use this as an MCP server. I'm going to build it in Cursor, and I'm going to use Cursor or Cloud App, whatever I'm comfortable with as a server. Sorry, as a
yep,
client, and then you basically connect it to Slack, to Google Drive, right? But then there's this element like you still have to talk to it, right?
Mm.
The other part about this, and I think that's what gets exciting, it's like you build this as an agent, right? Where you actually have almost like a chief of staff or like it's like an executive assistant that feeds all this information on the daily to the agent that it's your
yeah,
CEO, your governor kind of guy, and
Yeah.
he's the one. That's the one that like he creates GitHub issues. He does
yep,
the marketing
That's your
campaign.
GM right there, right?
yeah,
And
Yeah.
so basically, you must use MCP as a middle term with another AI to actually feed information. Because what you want is this stuff to be on its own, right? I think
yeah,
what we're getting very close to is, and we talk a lot about this at a topic like publicly, where it's like we started from this AI where sort of like the chatbots and assistant, but now we're getting to the collaborator era, right? Where actually now they can actually do stuff on their own pretty well, right?
hmm
And you see Sonnet is still incredible at agentic. I still think Sonnet is the best model for agentic behavior. O3, it's good, but I think it sometimes it fakes the agent. And we can talk a lot about that because I think it's interesting because they train the model on tools, right? And so
Yeah.
now he hallucinates the tool call because that's what's in his training. But yeah, that's sort of like how I start thinking about this. It's not just thinking in terms of NCP, but like how do you make something autonomous, basically?
Pietro, I nominate that you come on the show at a regular interval occasionally because I genuinely believe this. Uh, I think you're one of the most interesting people to talk to this space.
Thank you.
Built and CEO of EverArt, working at Anthropic. You announced recently on X that you have a design tool coming out. Hunter
yep,
and I are a bit privy to that,
yep,
and I can't wait to see more about that. I think you have such an interesting perspective and a bias to action and just like
Thank you.
building this stuff. That's incredible. So I'd love to have you on more. Really appreciate you being here for the 15-minute. I could keep going forever. I could
yeah,
probably
yeah,
have this conversation the entire show.
yep,
So we'll chat some more. Thank you for joining us,
Yeah,
man.
thank you
And
for having me, guys. Always a
yeah.
pleasure.
Always great.
Yeah, thank
Before
you.
before you go, Pietro,
Yeah.
you're wearing a new watch you weren't wearing last time. Are you wearing a rose gold root beer?
Yes. Yeah.
ooh,
Ah,
Good eye.
respect.
Good eye.
Yeah,
Wow.
respect.
I'm impressed.
You're gonna cost me money because now I want one. So thanks a lot, dude.
I love your. Is that a Jim T with a black? What's it?
Yeah. It's a Batman. Yeah,
I love it. All right, guys.
I love
Well,
it, dude.
thank you so much. Well, see you soon.
We'll talk soon,
Awesome,
Pietro.
Pietro. See you, buddy. What a
Dude.
rad dude.
I
What a rad dude. You know
just
what? I got a
get
new
so
rule.
motivated.
I got a new rule. Nobody can join the show. We can't have any guests unless they have a cool watch. I said guest. I didn't say host. We're gonna work on you.
I spend it all. I can't even figure out where my left and rights are. I spend it all in ink. I'm sorry. I'm not
I'm gonna help you
sorry.
build a collection.
I'm down. I've already got my first beginner collector in sights.
Oh, I know. You sent it to me. I didn't reply. That was rude of me. But
You don't
know
like
you're
it.
thinking.
You don't like it. Do we have Will joining already?
I don't know.
I don't think we have Will yet. Oh, we do have Will joining, actually. I thought we had like 15 more minutes on that. That's totally cool. Well, he'll be here in a second because I think he's joining us from React Miami. And I'm kind of curious to hear what's going on in React. So we'll talk with Will in a second when he jumps on. But what I do want to call something out real quick, all right? Because I like to do this. I like to do this for the viewers. Anytime I see a dope company, and by the way, I know that you were talking about not being a big Perplexity user yourself, but I am. I'm huge. It's one of my bookmarks up here. I use it for absolutely everything. And you know what's pretty sick about it is I don't know if you saw the search arena. So its own benchmarks for search models. Perplexity's topping the charts, man. It's really interesting. Let me find the table, the quick snapshot here. I found this interesting. It's pretty close up here next to, I mean, Foro's got some good stuff, but the leaderboard's over here, right? So I encourage people to come take a look at the LM search arena. This is specifically on search activities. And this is something I'm not getting out of Claude or OpenAI, at least what I've used so far. Perplexity is like my go-to for preliminary research, and then I'll take that information and plug it into like my workflows, ChatGPT, Claude. I find that to be a really good workflow, but I kind of wish I didn't have to cross modalities that way or cross platforms that way. But I want to call the reason I'm bringing attention to this real quick is because the good folks at Perplexity, they listen. I love Perplexity supply. I've got a couple shirts. I just bought a couple of their prints, and they said, "Hey, we're gonna go ahead and do this." I said, "Hey, Perplexity, can I give a couple viewers some free art?" And they said, "Yeah, drop their names." So here's the deal. And if you go to perplexity .supply, I believe the URL is, you can check out the prints. They're going to be sick. I'm going to replace one or two here. If you, by the end of this show, tag Hunter and I in some abomination of Hunter, all right? I am on a year-long mission to feed so much Hunter imagery into the image gen models that he becomes the NPC for all standard image gen. And if you tag it, we're going to vote on it, and I'm going to pick who's getting these two Perplexity prints. You've got till the end of the next hour to do this. There we go.
All right. How
do you feel about it?
All press is good press, man. I'm not worried. I'm not worried.
Well, let's bring in Will. So Will, the thing that struck me, what's up, dude? Good to see you.
What's up? How y'all doing?
You at the hotel out there in Miami?
Straight up, just posted up, moved the entire like desk that they'd give you like right in front of the window, so at least have some like normal-ish lighting.
Right.
But yeah, just hanging out in a hotel room, live streaming.
How's React Miami? What's been the theme there?
Oh man, it's fun. It's a party. Let me tell you, they know how to have fun. It's they had try to have a bunch of technical talks, and then it's like after the conference, it's all just hanging out. Miami's just got such a good vibe. The hotel's like right on the ocean, so lots of like warm weather, tropical themed things happening. So it's a lot of good people, a lot of good vibes.
You did something that I thought was super sick. So I'm going to Config in a couple of weeks. We're doing a big event, doing all this stuff. And you said, hey, man, you made an app, a game. And there are two things really interesting about this. One, it's sick. And I'd love to show the audience here in a second. And you did it for the event, or you did it for the conference. So have you had a chance to roll that out yet? Has that had its day?
Yeah. So the players are all in the middle of the game right now.
That's cool.
They're all playing, getting points from other attendees. Just as like a little background on the game, I had this like idea. I saw somebody posting about like
can you pull it up? I can pull it up.
Yeah. I've
Okay.
got. Let me show. I can show like a couple things about it. This is what people would find around the conference. I just got like a little D20 dice cube, cut it in half, and put like an NFC tag in the middle of it. So it's got this. It's got a look to it. So people like are like, what is this? And then right next to it, I had a card that kind of said like, scan your phone if you were down for some competition. There were only 8 of them, so there's like a limited number. And then let me
Where did they find the cards?
So the cards and the things were just scattered throughout the venue.
So it's got a little like a cipher kind of element to it. I like that.
Yeah. Like a little. My wife's here with me, and she goes, "Well, you're kind of like the Easter Bunny. It's kind of weird. Like you're just out there, just dropping treats everywhere, like hiding things for people." But let's go ahead and.
That's a really good idea too. I love that, and I'm bummed I didn't put some time into something like that.
Yes. No. This is like along the theme of like what I like to do, which is just like create ambitious projects. I had this idea like a week ago. So when they landed, this is like what people landed on when they scanned the little tag.
Linked Ascension. Look at this artwork, by the way.
This little screen here that has like the classic like old school like game where you can like click through it, like slowly reveals, what's this game, what's the goal. And then I was also able to, I'm going to kind of skip forward here a little bit.
Describe the style. There are people listening who aren't seeing it.
Okay.
Like, yeah.
This is like is the screen not sharing?
The screen's great. We have listeners who aren't watching is all.
Oh, perfect. Gotcha. Yeah. So to describe the style, think of like an old school, like pixel art RPG game. Like kind of like when I grew up, one of my favorite games of all time was like Zelda Link to the Past on the Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
So it's kind of got this like very retro pixel vibe to it. And so I was going to do this without any type of like prizes or anything. But I was able to talk to like a few sponsors and got some like awesome prizes for people who are already kind of sponsoring and going to be at the conference to really just kind of ramp this up for the people. But the idea that I had was like, I was always very awkward, like at conferences, like it's very hard to like introduce yourself to new people. Some people are a little more, gifted at that than others. I always used to have a hard time with it. And I thought, it'd be really great to give people an excuse to go introduce themselves to others.
Yep.
And so the whole like point of this game, the gameplay is like when you find this little token and accept your character, the way you get points is by meeting new people and getting them to scan the token that you found. And you get a point for every person that like you meet and introduce yourself to and get them to kind of like scan your token. And then like the more points that you have. So I'll go back here kind of to this screen. And we're going to do a little, this will be like a little fun here. This is like the final character. As you get more points, as you can kind of see, I've like this is locally, I've like given my character a bunch of points. You can unlock, like you can attack the other players. So you can come here and you see all the other players in the game and you can choose to like attack them. You'll see how much kind of damage that you'll do to them. And when the person runs out of hearts, they can't collect any more points. So they have to like heal their character, and to heal their character, they lose some of their points to do that. So it's kind of a way to like, oh man, this person's winning, let's all attack him. So we make him waste his points trying to heal. Just like some usual like gameplay type stuff. But there's 2 things that I think might be interesting for people that are listening, which is the tool that I use to kind of do all the pixel art. And then also some like AI that I use to try and make this whole process. I literally thought of this a week ago and had like a week to scramble and try to put this whole thing together. And there is no chance that I could have done it without like AI helping me like generate a lot of this stuff here. So this
Well,
Go ahead.
and I'm sorry, 1 second, because this is incredible, and I want to make a call out, but I didn't let people know who you are. So Will's actually design engineer over at Crunchy Data, and I have a question because I just saw Terminal.shop's montage music video they dropped yesterday.
Yeah.
So it says you're a head coach for Terminal.shop. I don't actually know what that means.
Oh, so a year ago, the Terminal Shop boys, they just do like all sorts of crazy content ideas. And one of the things that they did was they did a basketball game against the Laravel. It's a web framework. They have a whole conference called Laracon. And I just happened to be passing through where the conference was happening last year for a day. And I knew some of the David, he's the head of design at Laravel. He also like does Terminal with them. They were doing the basketball tournament and he was putting out this joke LinkedIn resume request, just job title for a coach for the team. And so I just submitted like a joke resume and he was just like, dude, you absolutely have to be the coach. I had a whole suit and they had me have like the jersey on underneath the suit, and like halfway through the game did like a rip off the shirt reveal, like just having fun. And so now like the joke is that I'm like the coach because I was, the coach for that basketball game that they did.
That's fantastic, man. And so you're going to show us the pixel art creation here, but the Laravel point, and what's interesting about the app you built here, which you coded and you use Cursor, there's not a lot of people talking about coding, quote unquote, vibe coding with PHP or Laravel. And
Let me tell you that people are sleeping on that. Yeah. If I'm being honest, we can come back to the pixel art part in here just in a second. But so this is obviously it's Cursor. I want to show y'all something with like some colors that I use the AI stuff with. But this whole like Laravel app, Laravel as a framework is so like not old as in like, oh, it's an old framework, but it's like a stable long-term framework. Yeah. It's been around for like over a decade. There is so much material out there that AI has been trained on, and a lot of it is Laravel. And not only that, one thing that I think Laravel has that a lot of other frameworks, for instance, like a lot of JavaScript frameworks, there's not like a single right way to do a lot of things. So what you end up having is a lot of different approaches, a lot of different like patterns that AI is trying to match with. So like when you get weird results, it's usually because like the training data for JavaScript applications is just such a wide range of styles. But Laravel has had such a like single-minded approach to most everything. Like there's a right way to do just about anything your backend for your software needs to do. And so the AI for this was so easy because it already knew like all of the expected patterns for this framework that has just been around and been stable for like over a decade.
So can I just say, easy. Hey, you are Jeffrey Way. Build my app.
Yes, exactly. I literally just went in there and was just like, I knew like mentally the architecture, like, hey, there's going to be a user can have a character, a game can have up to 8 characters, and I want the character to be able to have these stats. And, I put that in there and it just scaffolds this entire Laravel application. And from there, it's a lot easier to just like go in and then add like piece by piece, like the details of it. But like it just was able to scaffold almost immediately, like the full application, all the like routes, all of like the back end pieces that I needed, which then made it just like most of the time spent on artwork.
No front end frameworks, your pipeline in there?
So I use React. Okay. But it's using a Laravel. Laravel owns this. I wouldn't call it necessarily a framework, but it's more of like a pipeline tool. It's called Inertia, and it allows you to connect your Laravel backend to your React front end in the same way that you like expect out of these other JS frameworks, like auto loading data. It doesn't refetch on every page. It like does things on client side automatically for you. So like all the things that other frameworks have that's really nice to work with are like built into this like tool that Laravel manages themselves, but like nobody hardly ever talks about.
Got it.
I love that you built this. So show me. So I was going to ask you, because that pixel art, I was like, I wonder if he created that in Sprite sheets.
So I did. There's this tool called Asprite.
Asprite.
Yes, that's right. It's an app called Asprite, and it is built like if you're in game art development, like you know about this tool. And I just learned about it last year when I started kind of getting into like pixel art and this kind of stuff. But it has like so many tools, like just like Photoshop and Figma are like built for their type of work. This is perfectly fine tuned for like pixel art. It has like animation frames. You can see here how like I am able to like create like a timeline down here, and on each timeline
Is
you're
a
kind of
different
changing your
variation.
pixel art. Yeah, and so like the same here, like here are all the different like character styles here, and you're able to like have this timeline where you manage each frame of the artwork, and
And
be
then
able to
you
like get those
export
like
this as a
pixel.
GIF.
Yep. So well, even better. So this is you're able to export all of these as like a sprite sheet. So a sprite
Yeah,
sheet
yeah.
for people who aren't familiar in terms of game development, a sprite sheet is literally a static image that exports every frame of an animation as like a fixed size. So this has each frame, as you can kind of see here in this background here, and they're all like 64 pixel by 64 pixel squares. And then what you do to like to render that, which let's see how well we can kind of see what we can do here. But the way that that works is you can then create using like Canvas in the web. You basically just create like a miniature game loop, which just says like I'm loading in this sprite sheet here, and to animate it, you tell like the canvas to render, take this sprite sheet from the top left, render these are all like hard coded values, but it's like, let's say it's like 64 by 64 width. You are able to say like if it's on frame 1, start at 64. If it's at frame 2, then you're telling it to start at like whatever 64 plus 64. Don't do public math, as they say. But it just like loops through a static. Like you can think of it kind of like one of those books where you like take it and you flip
And
it
flip
and you
it.
can
Yeah,
see the
yeah.
character move. Like that's kind of what you're building out. But that's like what all video games are
Yeah.
these like sprite static images that just quickly move through these frames based on like a frames per second style.
I love this, man, and I appreciate you sharing all of this with us. I have a question for
Absolutely.
you. So my son, who's been doing a lot of gaming and game dev and pixel art, I know very little about pixel art. It's something I've wanted to get into, but my
Mm-hmm.
understanding is, like, for example, a week, 2 weeks ago, when Image Gen came out with ChatGPT and it really, was hitting the internet, there were a couple people making sprite sheets. There were
Yeah, yeah,
pixel
yeah.
art sprite sheets, and my understanding is that's not actually the same thing as what you're creating in Aspirate, right? Like that's
No,
it's
they're
like
very
one's
similar.
anti-aliased and the other is like actually pixel by pixel.
Yep, yep. There's a difference once you like get into the details, but like the way I think about this is like the way I think about like everything with AI and people who are getting into it. Like AI is not only like a productivity tool, but it's also like a gateway for people who've always wanted to create but haven't had like the on ramp to do it. So
Right.
like you could nitpick people and be like, well, yeah, that's not technically pixel art in terms of like what the industry refers to like real pixel art is. But like for like a kid or like for somebody who's always wanted to build a game but has been like, well, I can't have good artwork for it. You can generate stuff that's like enough to get you going, to like make you feel confident, to like really open that door for you. And then if you want to dig deeper, maybe you found out you like this other part more and you dig into that, but like maybe you really like the art part and now you start to notice, oh, like this, I wish that I could change it this way. And like now you've got the momentum to like, well, now let me like dig into like the underlying tool and like actually level that skill up more, since I was able to like get at least this far.
This is awesome, man. Well,
Yeah,
I really
totally.
appreciate you joining us, dude. I was stoked I was like, man, you're gonna make it during React Miami. You probably got a
Yeah.
whole bunch of stuff going on after this, right?
Yes, yeah. There's actually like the terminal fellas. They do like a terminal feud is what they call it. It's like a family feud show.
Oh, that's
But for
good.
like developer, like these guys come up with crazy stuff. So I
Yeah,
think it'll be live streamed here in a little bit, but I'm gonna be on that here soon. But yeah,
that's awesome.
it's a good time. I'm glad you brought me on here so I could talk about the game for just a little bit.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah, dude.
Go enjoy yourself, dude. Thank you for joining us. We'll
Absolutely.
have you on again sometime.
That sounds great. See you, fellas.
All right, see
See
you.
you well.
Terminal.shop. So that's Primogen. What's his name? I don't remember. Former Netflix engineer. Hilarious dude. I would love to
Dude,
get him
he's
on here one day.
crushing it.
He's killing it. He's killing it. Terminal.shop, by the way, is a really interesting product. I don't know everything about it. My understanding is you order coffee in the terminal. Is that your understanding?
I don't know what it is.
I think it's a coffee shop. You order it in the terminal, and I'm like, I could be wrong. But that was a gist I got. So it was, yeah, Will confirms it is through SSH. Yeah. And I'm like, that's an interesting play because it's like, okay, that's a standalone business, but like there's a whole e-commerce experience they're probably building around that gets really more interesting later. Kind of wild, you know, definitely a programmer goblin. Like, I don't want to leave the house. I'm ordering from the terminal.
I love it. Love it.
It's
Dude,
awesome.
we've been very code heavy today. Talking about MCPs, talking about Laravel.
Can I show you something that's not code?
Yeah, let's walk away from the code for a little bit.
Okay, all right. Too technical, he says. Well, I got you. I got you right here.
You're too smart. You're too smart.
Our guests are too smart. Little teaser, boys. Little teaser, little UX Tools rebrand coming out at the end of this month. Some big survey stuff, and I was having a little bit of fun. I'll be honest, though. I was trying to generate this for release notes. I don't know what it is about our logo, but it is. I was asking it some questions a moment ago. The release notes logo. I was trying to do off menu. It wasn't off menuing very well here. Release notes. It was not having it. So
interesting.
Kind of a hit or miss prompt, which by the way, I got from, I can't remember who on X, but I was playing with it, and then I took it over into a Motion app, had it spin. Fun little card, fun little thing.
Speaking of these, dude, I feel like we let Brett off too easy last week, and we should have made him show us some cool stuff because he's just dropping fire after fire.
So much fire. But you know what? And Brett, I love you. This is sick, but I'm going to show some doo-doo. All right. Because this to me has been fun. And he was this inspired the heck out of something we're doing with our survey. So he gets these pixel things and he walks through this process here. And he grabbed like the old Mac, different that kind of style. Built a JSON. So I'm seeing this a lot in prompts. People are turning, they're like, hey, build this prompt for me and format it in JSON. I wonder why. Maybe there's something around why that's a good idea. I don't know what it is, but it's something I'm starting to see a lot of people do. And then he just starts taking pictures of shit. And he's like, turn this into this. And I'm like, this is so good, man. Like, look at this stuff. So I really dug this, but Doodoo's not just dropping this stuff. I mean, he's over here dropping, and Doodoo, who runs Toolfolio, he's got like this sticker pack that they generated. Yeah. This stuff is really fun to me. I like this a lot, and these are real assets. We just saw Will talking about, not getting hung up on real pixel art. If you want to create something, if you're creating a little game or something, like you've got this part solved. This is really cool to me. And then,
dude, I love it, man. It's a cool style. Who is Doodoo? What is this man's name? What does his face actually look like?
I looked it up, and on LinkedIn, his name is Doodoo. So I don't know. I'm not sure.
I'm left with more questions than answers every time I come across him.
But Toolfolio, that's his thing, man. And I think he used to be or is a designer building out all this stuff. So really interesting cat. Might need to have him on someday.
Can we stay where we are? Is that us with more views than TBPN again?
Again.
What time did they go live? Did they go live 15 minutes ago, though? Or they've been live for a moment?
I don't know. I'm not sure. VC-backed TBPN against this little mom and pop shop. What's going on there, Hunter?
I don't know, but Brett Williams says Doodoo is the man.
Doodoo is the man. I agree. I've featured him a couple of times. He's got some pretty interesting stuff. That's why I'd love to talk with him. I do want to pull up for a second. So if any of you been participating, They have been participating. I've got one here, actually. Actually, I'm a little bummed I've only got one so far. So I'm going to tell you what. Here we go. We're going to share it. Guys, reminder, Perplexity. I've got some Perplexity prints, too, to give away if you can bring me some hilariously image gen of Hunter. You got to do it before the end of the show, and then I will dish out a wonderful Perplexity art, the Hunter of Us.
I just need them to be clever, and I'm not gonna spare words. Like I'm not gonna mince words here. This is a no go for me, Clow. I just no.
Let's
It
hunt
doesn't even
some
look like me.
zombies. Let's hunt some zombies. There's a little play on words there. Yeah, so that's what we got. We've got one. There is still time. By the end of the hour, we're gonna look at some more, and then some Perplexity artwork is gonna be yours. They're shipping prints, and they're pretty beautiful. I think they're like $40 a piece. You get it for free. Canva
We're gonna hook
code.
Clow out. We're gonna hook
Well,
Clow out.
we may hook Clow up. Actually, I don't want to talk about Canva code. Here's what I want to talk about is Lovable. So you and I have been talking about Lovable, and we've been talking about. I'm so curious to see what happens to these web-based editors, Bolt, Lovable, V0. Brett, those prompts you've been dropping are fire. Lovable says we've reached 40 million ARR in 5 months. Meanwhile, I feel very much that like churn is so easy right now. So I wonder, is Lovable still going to be like on top like this a year from now? And so like interesting things are happening, right? So Lovable, and certainly no hate to Lovable, love the guys at Lovable, love the team and the product. Daniel says, I just hacked multiple Lovable sites. Did you see this? So he goes and he finds the top launch sites on Lovable's directory that they have. And then he goes through and he says hacked, but he basically just opens them up and it says like, hey, how poorly did you hide all of the sensitive information? And he goes and shows every site. Now he doesn't expose the actual information. I think the point he's trying to make here is like, be careful who you're trusting as a consumer with your login information and all of your data, because look at this. And I mean, it's a real problem, right? Like this is not a small thing. This is a big deal. But what do you think about this, man? What do you think about the fact that people are shipping products, the AI slop goblins, and they're like, my API key, go ahead. There you go. If I look at your products, are we going to find some API keys?
No, because I know how middleware and .env files work. You know, I can't imagine a world in which it doesn't all get commoditized.
Right.
I just can't. Like, I don't want to sound like a grumpy old man. Like, I'm excited for Lovable. I think their growth has been crazy. I love that they're shipping. I don't know if you just saw, but Anton, their founder, just said, we're not changing dev mode, right? So I'm
Yeah.
excited to see that, but I just don't see a world in which these products don't get commoditized, because all they are, they're just wrappers for Claude and for
Mhm.
ChatGPT, and we're already seeing Claude code. We're already seeing ChatGPT in the terminal now. Potentially, OpenAI buying Windsurf for $3 billion.
After Cursor
Um,
said no, is that a mistake? Do you think Cursor fucked themselves?
yeah, I do. I really, maybe I'm wrong, but dude, like, it's a fucking fork of VS Code that has some custom instructions and some UI tweaks and talks to the API. Like, I can go right now, I can download Klein and I can give it my OpenAI API key, and I got it for free. All I got to do is pay OpenAI, right? Which either way, I'm paying the provider at the end of the day, right? Whether I'm using Windsurf or Cursor as my middleman, or in this case, Lovable as my middleman, I'm paying somebody. And so, again, my thing with Lovable, with Bolt, with all these guys is like, you're just an abstraction layer on top of the productivity that I'm actually trying to get at, right?
Right.
And I think that they're going to get commoditized, and I don't see a world in which ChatGPT doesn't add lovable like function right into chatgpt.com.
Now,
I don't see it. Especially if you watch their live stream of 4.1 the other day and even
mhm.
03 and some of the tools that they were showing off of how they're building tool calling for the new models, I think they're going to do it. Are they going to give you the ability to instantly deploy? No. But to do that, all you have to do is ask, hey, give me step-by-step instructions on how I deploy this.
Yeah. Well, and there's another piece to this, right? Outside of what's the future of some of these things, but it's you and I especially, and I certainly have a whole ads business, so I pay attention to how these teams are competing. There's guerrilla marketing. There's like big budgets around events and all these marketing spends. They're hosting hackathons. They're even capitalizing on things like, hey, Figma says we can't use dev mode, right? Everyone saw the cease and desist that they were supposedly sent. And then Anton says, we don't give a shit. And so like they're doing things like that. But then there's some claims coming out. Like Zhao Yin says, the founder of something called heyboss.dev. I've never used this, but apparently she calls bullshit and says, hey, like Anton's over here acting like the victim, but like you guys just did something pretty shitty to me. And she says the implications of that, like she got dragged, mocked, called crazy. And so if you actually look into the story, her claim is she had heyboss.xyz. And so Lovable bought heyboss.dev, pointed people to Lovable, and then like I guess kind of sat on that. And I don't know. There's like I'm a competitor, and I don't know that like I think this is a terrible thing, but I think it's kind of like when you get involved in the community and you're building a tool, I don't think it's a good look. What are your thoughts on like some of these marketing strategies you're seeing?
I think that it's such a tough thing because I'm all for competition,
Mhm.
right? Like I'm all about like free market, like let's compete, let's put a win. But there is a thing to where like, am I gonna go buy effectively my competitor's like closest domain name and try and steal their SEO? I don't know. That's where I get a little turned off by companies when they do that. Like I think if we're playing it like I don't know, let's talk like HubSpot, for example. Like
Right.
if HubSpot is buying keywords that are going to compete with Attio, right? Well, you know what? You HubSpot's a multi-billion dollar behemoth. They're publicly traded. Now Attio's raising millions and millions of VC dollars and they're coming for the king, right? Like those things happen. But when you're like an indie dev and you've got what is like supposed to be the champion of indie devs, like Lovable, right? Like they want indie devs to use their platform.
Right. Right.
Like, hey, come build this thing, but guess what? Fuck you. We're gonna buy the closest domains and try and take your SEO. That's where I think it's a little dirty,
This is
right?
to me it's less about it being dirty, which I agree with. This is not how I would conduct business. I'm big on ecosystem and playing well even with your competitors. I think it's important. But what I
Yep.
do think is I'm seeing a trend from Lovable of what I think is short-sighted marketing. I think they grab the nearest shiny object and they try to like grab the juice out of that thing and then on to the next one. And I think there is an element that you do need to like, hey, like this thing just popped up, jump on it, pump some resources into it, capture the moment. I get it. I want to see some longer term plays though. Like I want to see some bets made that indicate
Yeah.
that like you're thinking longer about this community and not just, hey boss.xyz went viral for a day. Let's capture the alternate, domain name. Like that to me says like, really? That's what your team's spending their fucking time on? That seems like a really big waste of resources. Now they are teasing Lovable 2.0. Future looks bright, he says. I don't know what that means, but I'm curious. I guess we'll find out. But
I don't
ultimately,
know,
like
man.
I'm
Like
kind of not a fan of the way they've been moving in the last maybe month here.
I'm not either. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna put the negative hat on.
Uh-oh.
I don't like it. I just don't like it. I'm not a fan. I'm gonna straight up say it. I'm not team lovable. I wish them all the success in the world. I hope they crush it. But I don't know. I just get weird vibes. Yeah, I just get weird vibes. It is interesting because we think of the analogy all the time of like what everybody's trying to mine for gold, sell shovels, right?
Right.
Except in this case, the gold is day by day trying to figure out how to just walk out of the ground itself. Shovel's not needed, right? And the gold providers, the manufacturers of the gold in this case is not the earth, it's the model providers, and they're kind of like, we don't actually think it's in our best interest if shovels are required to access us,
Hmm.
right? We're just going to try and make this easier for you. And I think that's what's happening. And to be honest with you, dude, if OpenAI does buy Windsurf,
I'm
what
all in. I'm
happens?
all in OpenAI. I'm all in. I'm moving everything
Like,
over. Like I'm there.
I hope they do actually, because I frankly like I use OpenAI's models. I use Windsurf. I've really come to enjoy Windsurf. I haven't opened Cursor in a while. Um, I think that I wouldn't bet against Sam Altman. I've never been a crazy Silicon Valley guy, but I do love Paul Graham. And I remember his quote early on, before Sam Altman was like a big deal. I don't even think he was the CEO of Y Combinator yet. And Paul Graham's quote on Sam Altman was like it's him. Like I would take him over any Y Combinator founder ever. Um, let me. I want to see what the quote was. It was. I think. Hold on. It was something about like, oh, here it is. Sam Altman has it. You could parachute him into an island full of cannibals and come back in 5 years, and he'd be the king. If you're Sam Altman, you don't have to be profitable to convey to investors that you'll succeed with or without them. He wasn't, and he did. Not everyone has Sam's deal making ability. I myself don't, but if you don't, you can let the numbers speak for you. That was a direct quote and
Mhm.
Paul Graham further said, Sam is extremely good at becoming powerful. So, like, just Paul Graham is a baller. Like, he is the Rick
I'm a fan.
Rubin of startups. And this man literally said, you can drop this dude on an island of cannibals, come back in 5 years, he'll be the king. Like,
If you praise Sam Altman these days, there's a group out there that's not happy about that comment.
dude, I know. You know what? Fuck those groups. Just fuck all those groups. It's like all the people that are like, oh, Elon Musk, like, let's go burn some Teslas. Come on, man. Like,
Yeah.
let's grow up a little bit.
Yeah. I uh I did see something that was interesting and I want your take on this. Okay. So I'm not super familiar with Translucence. A company in the AI space. They ran an experiment. They published the research on this, but they tested a pre-release of O3
Hmm.
and they found that it actually fabricates a
Yep.
lot of actions it claims to have taken.
All models do. Yeah.
And so, kind of an interesting counter to like, oh my God, this is probably AGI, which is another take I've heard about O3. Like, what do you expect AGI to look like? This is AGI. I've heard some people echo that sentiment, and then I hear this. Well, it's actually it's kind of hallucinating, and I'm like, Did you dig into this report at all?
Yeah, I read through when they posted this. I didn't go too hardcore into this. But I've seen that all models will lie. Or hallucinate, right? Like
Mhm.
a very common occurrence, even with like 3.5 Sonnet, and maybe a little less so with 3.7, but certainly with 3.5, it would say, hey, let's work off of a implementation plan, for example, that has 10
Mhm.
steps. And it would go through and it'd be working on them, whatever, and it would come back and it would complete them and be like, okay, I did 8 of these. And you pause for a second and be like, wait, you only did 4 of these. Like, why did you say you did 8? Like, you did 4. And it's like, oh, let me double check. Oh, my bad. You're right. I was wrong. Like all these models will do that. I think the
Yeah.
frequency in which they do is something that can be concerning if you're using the model in too automated of a fashion and not
Yeah.
keeping the human in the loop.
Oh man, did I learn that lesson and the amount of QA that I've built into analyzing and fact checking? I mean, I'm still manually combing through the data set we have for UX tools to make sure that the stories and the narrative and that the synthesis that ChatGPT is giving me is actually real. And it's pretty much nailed it. There have been a couple occasions where I've had to help define certain filter groups so it knew specifically what part of the CSV, which has thousands of rows to look at. But it's been pretty cool. And I will show that process, not today, but I will show that process once we launch a survey because it's got some really cool insights. But yeah, that's something. This is what's been concerning to me is like, so they tested 1,000 conversations and through it, they just found that it was like, hey, it would say it ran some code or it did something agentic, and it turns out it didn't actually do that thing. I found that kind of interesting, but I guess that's just kind of where we're at. That's going to be the case for a while. But but the trade-offs to me appear significant right now, like well worth it.
I think so. Dude, can we talk about Canva for a second?
I was gonna try to use it yesterday to talk through the use case of it, and man,
Yep.
I didn't have time. Have you tried it yet?
I haven't, but I want to share some context real quick. So, my wife is a kindergarten teacher. Well, I guess now she's a stay-at-home mom, but she was a kindergarten teacher for a long time. And she uses the shit out of Canva. She still uses it to this day. She'll like do cute artsy stuff for our kids all the time. So this got me thinking when they announced their code feature. I was like, okay, Canva's like this quiet killer. Like us in the industry,
Yeah.
we're like, fuck Canva, like this is child's play, right?
The
Okay.
normies are gonna code.
The normies are gonna do some shit. All right, you ready? Do you have a guess of what Figma's reported revenue is?
No, actually, I didn't look at the IPO. I just saw that they're filing for IPO.
So would you say above or below $1 billion a year?
Oh, above.
Above. So it
Yeah.
might be. So supposedly kind of year end of like 23, it was somewhere around like 600 million. Okay.
23. Okay.
Um,
And then they did a pricing thing. Dev mode got some love in 2024, I think.
I think so. Yeah. So let's say that Figma's revenue is like $1 billion.
Okay.
Okay. Year end 24, Canva's revenue is reported 2.5
Yeah.
billion.
They're huge, man.
They're huge, dude. And like they're, I believe, like vast majority owned by Melanie Perkins, right? That's the founder of Canva,
Which
Melanie
she's got a
Perkins.
dope story too, man. Like you gotta love that
Dude,
story.
dope story. Dope story. Yeah, Melanie Perkins. So she owns, oh wow, I was wrong. She doesn't. She owns 18% of the company,
Okay.
which is a good amount. Estimated net worth $4.4 billion. So all of
4.4.
us like nerds, let's put us in the nerds category. We're all like Figma, like we bitch about Figma, we bitch about like their dark pricing models, like all this stuff, because Figma is how we make money, right? Well, it turns out that Canva is the next Adobe, not Figma. And we could look at that with a negative light and say, oh, well, you don't want to be the next Adobe, but you're missing the bigger picture here. Dude, I think it's terrifying for the Lovables and the Bolts and everybody that Canva's like, we're gonna let the normies code, not you. Like we're gonna be the true vibe coding champions.
I mean, listen, we know what's coming at config, right? They've all but signaled it. Figma has. And so the design tools, like the dev tools, we've been talking about how they're migrating over into the design world, making it easier to produce interfaces and things like that. And then we saw some like tertiary plugins or like a nice little feature. Figma rolled out AI and then they rolled it back, and then we had FigPals or something. And so it was like, okay, Like, doesn't really seem like the design side's making a lot of moves here. Canva drops this, and what happens? So Figma's got, I thought it was really interesting that 5 of the like 30 plus talks at Config are about AI. It is clear this year they're like, we don't want AI to like oversaturate for whatever reason. That's there. Filed for IPO. Not totally related, but just interesting in context. Send a dev mode cease and desist to Lovable, which I mean, like, might also not signal anything because it's still a thing, but it's like they really are putting some proprietary stuff around that in the context of Lovable. And then on top of that, we have the leak. We had that leak screenshot where it was like you could create a website, and then they bought Dynaboard years ago, and then they just bought Modify. And the question's always been, how is Figma going to get out of the landlocked canvas that they created for themselves to actually get to that publishing place? And those 2 acquisitions, a lot of people think like are going to be part of that answer. I think all of that, if you look at it all in a package, it's clear. They're about to announce web publishing. Like they're about to announce a coding product or at least the channel that will lead to the coding product at Config. That's my guess. And you're gonna have Canva and Figma competing on the coding side alongside everybody else.
I don't give a fuck. I just don't care. Like I don't care. If Figma comes out, and I think what they're going to show us is Framer, basically. Right.
You think it'll be like heavily web publishing, right? Like
I think they're going to show us a Framer competitor. Yeah, I think so. And you know what? In that regard, I'm going to bet on Yorn, man. Like
I would 100% bet on Yorn. I think Framer is going to be interesting end of year, beginning of next year.
Yeah. The more I've reflected on it, and I really liked what Philip showed us last week for Subframe.
Yeah.
I really liked it. But I also really love what Pietro showed us for his new design tool, which I know we can't say what it is yet.
Yeah.
But dude, honestly, like, have you played with O3 and had it like design anything yet? Or even
I've had it. So O3. So I hired a designer recently, last week.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Sick. And cool. I'm actually using O3 right now to like get some initial feedback, and then I'm critiquing the taste part of it and adding my own things. I'm not letting it produce design outside of like IA, like information architecture blocks,
Yep. So Devin, I guess, has access, and he says it's Framer light, it's mid.
Yeah.
For us old people, mid means it's mediocre.
Now, I want to give Dylan credit because I've been a little critical of what it seems like they're trying to focus on, and I used to really love Dylan back when it wasn't popular to like Dylan, because he was ruining design with Figma, right? He made it multiplayer. Now my PM can watch over my shoulder, and he had that dog in him, and he was like, I don't give a fuck, guys. You're just fucking idiots. I'm putting this out there, and I'm going to take over the goddamn design space. Like, hell yeah, dude. And it kind of just seemed like he was like coasting or making, he got scared. He rolled out some AI stuff and everyone yelled, and now he was like reactive to it. I like that they are taking swings like this. I don't know if they're going to be the winner, but I appreciate it. I think it's healthy. I think it's really good just overall to see Canva and to see Figma saying like, because outside of the companies like Shopify and the Cisco CPO coming out and making claims about, hey, like we're not hiring or we shouldn't be hiring if AI can do this function first. And then to see the tooling, the mainstream tooling that's plugged in all to the enterprise ecosystems going, yeah, and that's where we're putting the puck too. I think we need to, like, there needs to just be an acceptance that this is where we are, regardless of what you think about it, ethics or economic fears, which are all valid. Regardless of that, like we need the moment where it's like, guys, like regardless, this is here. And those of you who are not willing to recognize that and make the changes in your life so that you don't end up in squalor, this needs to happen for you guys.
I agree. We'll see what happens, man. We'll see what happens. I just like, I'm so curious how we're going to see the tool. I feel like what Pietro showed us, like if you took what Pietro showed us,
Mm-hmm.
and guys, I'm sorry that we got to be so vague here, but I'm gonna carefully describe a vision, okay? Not what Pietro's about. But if you take what Pietro showed us and then you added subframe to it, or you made them had a baby, right? Like, I think the future of a design tool is one to where I can take over at any point in time, right? It, like, just like cursor or windsurf, like I can prompt and it's going to do things for me, but I can get in there and I can change anything instantly, right? Like, to me, that's the future of design. And I think that being able to have that experience on an infinite canvas, so where I can see a ton of different versions and ideas, or I can like click an existing design, right? And I can say, can I have like, can you do 3 versions of this just to like experiment with other layouts, whatever? That is going to be super interesting. And then my ability there to just take that and sync it with my code base, that's everything, right?
There's a piece of this that we haven't really talked about, and it's not like a sexy topic on X either, but the feedback mechanism that you collect either from other stakeholders on your team or your users, that's getting automated too in a way that plugs into these tools. So it's like, hey, I'll send you a Loom, or I'll record a voice note, or I'll just add some comments on the design spec, or a user interview. We're doing this stuff, and it's like, okay, yeah, I got granola and it can do that. The next layer to that that's coming is the ability to just put it right inside of whatever your source of truth is, and it's automatically compiling, like, here's the feedback, and like, I'll
Yeah.
save you the time, here's like 5 steps, you know.
Yeah.
That's
Dude.
all of this is making a giant ecosystem right now for your
Totally.
$100,000 a month GM to just go
Yeah.
ham.
Go ham. Go nuts. Dude, I gotta interrupt this scheduled program to show you this real quick. We have a winner, sir.
Oh
We have
no.
a winner. We have a winner. We have a winner. Like,
Hey, wait, who is this?
we got the raptor, we got the hoodie,
Oh.
the hat, we got Lovable getting ran over. Like, we have a winner.
I'm so upset about this, though, and I agree. This is a winner. You made him look so cool. Stop making Hunter look cool.
But I am cool.
Yeah, he's already cool.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
That's pretty good.
Well done.
That's
All right,
nice.
so Claw, and was that Alex I saw?
Alex Swanson. Yep.
All right,
Alex
hey,
Swanson, you sir, you have perplexity.
hey, both of you, please, and I'll reach out to you if I don't hear from you by the end of the show. DM me your information. We'll get you some artwork. Go to the website, find the piece of art that you want from Perplexity, and let me know.
Yep. Ethan said, I thought Pietro was coming on to show his new design tool. He is going to when he's
Yeah.
ready. We're not going to
Yeah.
rush him. We it's getting better. It's getting better. It's a really interesting thing he's building.
The hype's real. The hype for some of these new tools that you guys maybe heard about in the wind, I think is very real. So like while we're paying attention to Canva and Figma and some of the things that are happening, I like the design side, my prediction, even with the survey data I'm seeing, the stuff that you guys said you're excited about, like people are like, X isn't sleeping on Rive, but you motherfuckers are sleeping on Rive. And I think we're about to see just a wild new chapter in design tools. And it's not all AI. And a lot of it isn't just the AI part that's the most interesting thing. So I can't wait for that stuff. It pains me to have to hold off. You and I need to create a dashboard, I think.
A dashboard for what?
Yeah, I want to
What are we
talk about
dashboarding?
there's a sensitivity in doing public experiments around real revenue, real money. Because if you start to kill something, like you start to just rip it, people are going to like start looking at what you're doing, and you're going to try to maybe like take some things, and maybe there's some risk in that. Maybe you don't care. But what I'd like to do, I'm genuinely building some major initiatives, and I think I'll probably share a couple of those next week. We're finalizing some things, and I'm really excited about it. But I want to
Your show?
the show, a number of things. Yeah.
I mean, you said it to the world with Dan Petty last week.
Yeah, I did. But there's like details to it that I haven't. So and I don't want to be like, here's like 30% of the information, and then so I want to give you guys the full picture. That's coming soon. But the point is I'd like to show you guys how I am full stakes. Like if this doesn't work out, you know, it's not a good place for me to be. And so I want to like, what does a dashboard view of that look like, so that we can come on here and talk about it, but you can kind of see like, oh, Tommy's dying right now. You know, I'm curious. I would be interested to try and think of what's worth exposing on that, and like how. What do you think about that? Even for your experiment, that's meant to be a media project, right?
Yeah, I go back and forth on it because, yeah, I mean, I think that there's certainly something dangerous to opening up the kimono and letting people see like how everything works.
Opening up the
But
kimono.
you've never heard of that?
I haven't
You never
heard
heard that reference? Um, but at least I didn't say Zeitgeist. Opening
didn't
up
say
kimonos is a thing, dude. You got a perplexity that shit.
that. Okay.
Um, I think everybody underestimates how much fucking hard work goes into making anything successful,
Yeah.
right? Like, if I gave you a step-by-step plan of how I built a business, right? Do I think that 99% of people would do
Oh,
it?
I would
No,
probably fuck it up,
absolutely not.
man. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, like it's so tough. You have to, so much of it is like your own intrinsic ability and your
Hmm.
experience to do certain things. You know, I don't know, man. It's interesting. I think that I actually these days lean more towards sharing more and saying like the bet here is that AI is evening the playing field, right? Like anybody can tap into O3, and let me tell you, O3 is smarter than I am. Period. Right? It's smarter than you are. It's probably smarter than fucking everybody almost. Um, but it's agreeable, and it needs to be pushed into the right direction, and it needs to know what questions to ask or what context to look for, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't intrinsically know that, and so I think if you wanted to make the bet of like, hey, I'm going to use these models plus my experience and my skill sets, and I'm going to open everything up. And the bet I'm making is that I'm just going to work harder and I'm going to execute better than you. I think you probably still stand a good chance of not having to worry about too much competition.
So you're for the dashboard.
I could be, yeah. Yeah, I think
Okay.
so.
We should talk
But
about it,
but
'cause I
my,
think
my
it'd be
point though
cool.
is like just having a dashboard itself, what value did what's the ROI
I
that
think the
comes with having
dashboard
a public
really
dashboard?
is more like it would probably just help us when we come on the show and like, okay, we pull up dashboard and we look at like it would give us the same talking measurements to look at maybe. You know, I mean, listen, it doesn't have to be like this publicly facing thing, but like I just mean, well, I guess I'd love to just chat and figure out like how do we measure it? Because you're thinking about like a contained experiment, and I'm thinking about how do I make $1 million and like not go broke before my daughter's born. So both of them are the same thing. I'm just wondering how to like put that together. So I'd like to talk about
I,
it.
I'm going to think about this over this weekend because I think it would be super exciting, whether it's my experiment that I want to run or it's something new. I think it'd be really exciting to do it publicly, to
Yes.
say like, yeah, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna use AI to help us build this business, whatever it is, right? And I don't necessarily mean us as in like us together. It could be you on your own. It could be me on my own, whatever. But we're going to use AI. We're going to open source it in real time. Maybe there's a week delay or something, right? But we're going to use AI to
Nice.
to to generate this. To like, I'm going to show you how I use deep research to think through, like competitive landscape or like market positioning, whatever it is. That could be really, really fun to do.
And actually, so yeah, we're going to talk about this. I think there's a really compelling thing to say. The release notes newsletter is coming out, and I think probably needs to just be here's what happened in the week, one on like a Tuesday, and then a Friday recap of like here's us building our own independent or collaborated effort, and here's like the recap of the last 2 weeks type of thing. Things we
Pretty
learned,
cool.
prompts,
Yeah,
stuff. You know,
it'd be cool.
it would be an interesting thing to. So definitely a thought experiment around that I'd like to do. Um, Next week, man. So there's something we haven't talked a lot about. And it seems like maybe it's a small topic, but I think this is like something I've been thinking about. It's been pissing me off. Email.
How bad Notion Mail is?
So listen, all right. Jason Ginsberg.
I don't know who that is, but I'm all for him.
He's Jason Ginsberg. So he was the co-founder, or he is the co-founder CTO of Skiff Privacy, which was acquired by Notion. And then he works at Notion, and he works on the Notion Mail product. In fact, he's a design engineer by trade, completely vibe coded the Notion Mail view, the calendar view in Notion Mail. So I kind of want to dig into that. And so, yeah, I'm not in Notion Mail. It doesn't do it for me because Superhuman has ruined me. Superhuman just got AI.
Are you using it?
Not meaningfully. Like, it's automatically tagging all my emails, which is visually a little bit jarring. Because the tags used to mean like spam or something. So now every time everything's tagged, I'm like, oh, like it's a weird thing to get used to. But I do want to.
Are you letting it draft for you?
No. I guess I should. I'm letting ChatGPT. So here's the thing, dude, is I'm really nervous to trust some of the AI in, like, this is an interesting thing. Notion, I think, fucked this up. You can't choose a model in Notion. They started early. They wanted to, they're like, hey, we got all the data. Like, let's start building our own model off of this. Not a bad idea. And maybe that pays off. But it sucks. It sucks. I will never touch it. Like, I think they need to completely throw it away in terms of messaging, like message that they are fucking throwing it away. Like,
dude, can we address the elephant in the room? Notion is the most overhyped thing in the world.
No, I think it's properly hyped because it gets so much hate. There's so many people hating on it. Yeah. I disagree.
No.
And listen, when Jason comes on next week, we'll talk to him about this a little bit. I want to talk about mail specifically. But the Notion product, I mean, it's my repository. And it's
because it's ass.
it's the thing that, like, it's my suitcase and I have everything in it and it really serves that purpose. But this is what I mean. Like, it's the one last product I won't churn from easily. But if ChatGPT releases docs in a workspace that's like this, I'm going to spend a weekend packing my fucking bags and hauling everything over.
Dude, look, I have said it before, I'll say it again. I want to love Notion, but they make it so hard. They make it so hard.
Yeah, that mail
Now,
product.
I will say the Kanban experience in Notion is pretty solid, right? But then I want to start writing a doc or writing a script or something, and then I'm like, why am I writing in Notion? Like, this is the worst place for me to write. Like, I don't know, man.
We've got Nizzy joining us next week too, creating Zero.
What's a Nizzy?
Nizzy is Nizzy. I'll have his full name, but he goes by Nizzy on X. And I did ask his full name. He says, "No, just call me Nizzy." I was like, "Okay, all right." Building Zero email. Haven't used it. I'll check it out. AI based. So this is a part of my process I'm trying to automate. It is something that, because I was talking to Dan Mall the other day, we were talking about assistance. You and I were talking about assistance. I don't like I probably need a lot of things when we field guests for the show. I mean, I do a ton of emailing all day long. I want to automate that part somehow, and I don't yet know how to do that. And the tools that exist right now, yeah, it'll draft me an email. I need more than that. Is the email tool is that the like battleground for that problem? I don't know.
You want to
automate correspondence. I want to automate.
That sounds like a bad idea. Like, you could do that with Lindy. You could use like Get
I'm
Lindy
not.
or
Okay,
Gumloop or something.
In a human in the loop way. I still want to be involved in some capacity, but like there's no question that there are elements of that process that I'm spending a lot of time on, and I should not be spending time on that.
That's fair. I got an important question for you. Are you going to have any sweets this weekend? Ice
Sweets.
cream, cake. Yeah, sweets. What? You got a sweet tooth for something this weekend?
Oh, ice cream's my thing, dude. I love ice cream.
Fucking love ice cream. What's your favorite ice cream? Tell the people.
Brand, like, well, listen, in San Francisco, and if
Flavor
you're going
and
out there,
brand.
Buy Right Creamery is by far, hands down, the best ice cream in the United States. In the United States, not a gelato guy. Fuck gelato.
I wouldn't
No.
agree with that. Anyways,
Yeah, Buy Right Creamery. But if I'm honest with you, man, I'm a pretty simple person. I like a good vanilla. Don't
what kind
look
of
at me.
milk toast ass motherfucker are you?
It's like liking. This is what I
You
think.
like vanilla?
If you
That's a
don't appreciate a good
non-answer.
vanilla, if you don't appreciate a margarita pizza, what are we talking about? Like, what are we
That's
talking
different. That's a
about?
totally different thing.
No, it's
Margarita's
like
got a lot going
the
on.
best chefs in the world know, like, that. You know what they test them with? Make some, like, scramble some fucking eggs. One of the hardest things to do. Give me a
You
good
just
vanilla.
said vanilla?
Give me a good vanilla bean. You know.
What kind of brand are you buying? Like, who's your go-to ice cream
Okay.
brand?
Listen. Like, that's different. There's some, like, local spots. So I go to local spots and they'll have, like, a mixture, and I mix things up, right? I'll get a Cherry Garcia or something, but and I'll make sundaes. Like, sundaes are my thing, really.
So you're a hot fudge guy.
You're scrutinizing me a lot. What's your favorite ice cream, Hunter?
Dude, flavor-wise, look, Jenny's is my babe. Jenny's is my
Haven't
second
had it.
wife. I love Jenny's, and I'll fight anybody who
Do you
disagrees.
like gelato?
I do like gelato, but I prefer ice cream. Yeah. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I'm gonna go Jenny's in most cases. Cincinnati, where I used to live, they've got graters. They have this like raspberry chocolate chip that's fucking insane. Um, but yeah, dude, I'm gonna go like anything salted caramel is gonna get my attention, you know? Okay. I like it. I like it a lot. But yeah, man. I just had to ask that question. I've been dying to know. I've been dying to know.
Well, and before we head out, we've got some recommendations that I want to see. Klaus says pistachio. Pistachio actually is fire. I've had some
Pistachio's
fantastic
great.
pistachio. Yeah.
Tillamook vanilla.
Yeah. I think
Also
it's like
great
a
choice.
steady staple. Agreed.
Sorry, not sorry for ice cream. Come to Vegas. I can't go to Vegas. It's a thing.
Yes. Oh, I'm gonna have fun with
Dulce
you.
de leche.
Hey, I made us the best dulce de leche sundae in San Francisco at Buy Right. Graham cracker, marshmallow
Mid-whip
cream.
meme
Yeah.
for ice cream. Ben and Jerry's is on both ends.
Ben and
Ben
Jerry's
and
is like a
Jerry's.
easy. It's not. It's if I get Ben and Jerry's, it's like you know what you're getting, but like
Ben and Jerry's is the
I'm never
most
mad
like
about it.
Ben and Jerry's is the notion of ice cream. Okay, like let's just make that clear. It's the notion of ice cream.
You don't have good takes, man.
Oh, here we go. Mitchell's, San Francisco.
Oh yeah. So
Buy
Devin
Right.
and I already got into this. So he and I we actually squabbled a little bit over that. Yeah. And I'll see you in San Francisco, Devin.
Ooh, pistachio plus espresso gelato combo is the best. Now that honestly, that sounds nice.
Kyle.
Marion Berry Tillamook. That also is really Tillamook makes good stuff, dude.
They do.
Like they make good stuff. I'm a Tillamook fan. All right. On that note, we now know everybody's favorite ice cream flavor.
Are you watching? I just want to ask, and we won't have to talk about it. You watching Last of Us?
Oh no, not yet. I need to. I was finishing Silo. Silo's so good.
Okay, I
So
need to catch
good.
up. I need to catch up.
Dude, it's so good.
I'm a Last of Us stan, dude.
I love Last of Us, dude. I love it. I'm excited for the golf club scene that's coming up.
Oh, you stop it. Don't do that.
I didn't spoil anything.
Don't do that.
I said golf club scene. I didn't spoil anything.
One of the values in my family is, and I'm very strict on this, don't fucking spoil things for people.
You gotta tease it, but never spoil.
You never spoil.
Never spoil.
I will ground you. I mean, man, like the harshest of the consequences. It's tier 1 level spoiling things.
No way you'll ground your children over spoiling something.
If they spoiled something like big, we'd have to turn that into a teachable moment for sure.
Give me your phone. Give me your phone for the weekend. You've lost it.
Guys,
I will say I am going to go see Sinners tonight with one of my teens. Supposedly that's great, so I'm gonna check it out.
Okay. All right.
I'll let you
Yeah.
know. I'll give you my review.
All right. Well, this has been a show.
It's been a show. Next week we'll be back. I'll be back in the office, bookcase, everything, all that good stuff. We also have a banger of a show next week. We're going to be hitting the topics going into it. Some cool guests. It's going to be good. And maybe I have an announcement or two to make. I don't know.
Hunter's pregnant. So
No, dude, I got a vasectomy, dog. The boys got clipped.
those aren't 100%, man.
I'll text you something else, though. I'll text you.
Guys, thanks for watching us. The YouTube is working now, so that's good news for everybody. We will see you all next week.
Next week. See you, everybody.